So one of the well-known teachings made popular by Philip Kapleau is the 3 pillars of Zen: great faith, great doubt, great zeal. They were very inspiring for me when I came across them. And last week I read from Tangen Harada Roshi's, the book about his life, Throw Yourself into the House of Buddha, and he has a chapter on great faith, great doubt, great zeal. So I'll read a little bit and we'll see how far we get today. We might not get through all 3 of them, we might just work on great faith. There are 3 points that are essential for Zen practice. All the great practitioners from times of old have stressed the necessity for these 3 basic elements. The first one is great faith. When we say great faith, it is not the great of great and small. It is bottomless great, a great that is beyond comparison, including everything. Generally, we use the word faith to describe something far less, such as, I believe you. That kind of faith can easily become, I don't believe you, which is a disbelief. It is the same as saying, I think so. True faith is far deeper than I think so. True faith is not something that is subject to change. In Japanese, we call it literally the roots of great faith. Roots symbolize something really grounded. Once a great tree fell in a landslide here on the mountain behind our temple. It had been there for hundreds of years. The roots were still deep in the ground after it fell, and we tried to pull them out. It was impossible. So we had to take a chainsaw and cut through them. Roots are that strong. Deep faith is firmly rooted, absolutely unmoving. So what is this faith in? It is faith that all beings are Buddha. It is trust in inherent Buddha nature. It is faith that everything is perfect just as it is. Nothing is in excess, nothing is lacking. Everything is itself perfect virtue, absolute merit. Even though the mind's eye, the eye of truth, is not yet open, not yet far-seeing, we can have faith. We have faith in the teachings of truth, faith that penetrates the marrow. Faith in inherent nature is firm and unmoving. I am Buddha nature. My true self is heaven and earth, one root. There is no thing in opposition to any other thing. No self versus other. We are all one root. It is not possible to divide original Buddha mind. Sakyamuni, the world-honoured one, affirmed this truth through personal experience. Wonderful, wonderful, wonder of wonders. All beings are Buddha, endowed with Buddha virtue, Buddha wisdom. This points to our original nature, not any individual state of mind, but the true essence of mind. Of course, this is not only about human beings. Everything is, as it is, Buddha. So why do you feel truth to be so distant, so separate, something that you have to reach out and try to get? As long as you perceive yourself to be alienated from reality, there will be, as the old saying goes, one joy to 100 sorrows. Until you have realized your true nature, the time of tranquility that you enjoy now and again will be followed by times of unease, restlessness, dissatisfactions, ups and downs. So this great faith in Buddha nature is not faith in most beings have Buddha nature, but not absolutely everyone. It's great faith in Buddha nature pervading absolutely everything, including ourselves, including those that appear to be doing their best to make us think it is otherwise. The teaching isn't some people have Buddha nature, or some beings have Buddha nature, or some things have Buddha nature, but not other things. Like Tangen Roshi said, this great is not in opposition to small. This Buddha nature is not in opposition to something that is not Buddha nature. It's a kind of all-encompassing faith that everything is worthy of respect. And I've been just thinking over the last couple of days with the escalation in global conflict that we do get tempted or pushed to take sides, and it's in the conventional way of taking this side and not that side. Which side are you on? For whom do you have the most empathy? And in the conventional way of looking at things, we're often pushed to have empathy here and specifically not there. So to see the worthiness here and specifically see the lack of worthiness there. And this attitude of picking sides perpetuates and justifies war, and perpetuates and justifies exploitation and all the many other kinds of harm that happen. So it's the teachings for us to really find a way when we're tempted to care about one side at the expense of another, to really look carefully and remember that the teaching is that Buddha nature pervades everyone, everything. Everything is Buddha nature. And to have faith in that. And when we have faith in that, we have to say, why do I have faith in this? Like, it's not blind faith. This is an intelligent faith. So when I'm put in the situation where I'm a little bit tempted to feel a constriction around someone or some group of people or something, if I start to feel a little constriction, I can use my intelligence and say, this great faith that I have, what is it? What is happening right now? And then pretty quickly I go into the teachings on cause and effect and conditions. If people are being violent towards each other, there are causes and conditions that go back into the infinite past. We can track them back a certain distance. We can go back one year. We can go back 1 decade. We can go back 2 decades. We can go back a century. You can go back 100 years, 1,000 years. Cause and effect keeps on going, keeps on going, keeps on going. And it explains everything. It explains why people's Buddha nature doesn't seem to be revealing itself to us. It can help us understand how delusion clouds this beautiful expression of Buddha nature. And people don't realise, and they harm themselves and they harm each other. Can you hear all that construction work in the background? Yes. It's holy, sacred, temple building construction. So we have these opportunities over and over and over to see Buddha nature everywhere and to cultivate faith, this intelligent faith. I think another thing that we can have faith about is just faith in breathing, in the power of Zazen and the power of breathing. In our koan class this morning, Renee did a calculation of how many breaths a person more or less has, generally speaking, in a lifetime. And he calculated it was something like 230 million breaths in a lifetime. So let's say somewhere between 200 and 300 million breaths. Every one of those breaths is worthy of our attention. Every one of those breaths is what allows us to keep being alive and have consciousness and to be aware of the world. Every one of those breaths. So we can go into our Zazen practice and actually have faith, great faith, that it's a worthwhile thing to just breathe in and breathe out. That's not a waste of time, that it's a very, very worthy endeavour to follow our breath, to pay attention to our breathing. And I think I'll read out the koan that prompted that conversation this morning. This is case 3 in the Book of Serenity. A Raja of East Indian country invited the 27th Buddhist patriarch Prajnatara to a feast. The Raja asked him, "Why don't you read scriptures?" The patriarch said, "This poor wayfarer doesn't dwell in the realms of the body or mind when breathing in, doesn't get involved in myriad circumstances when breathing out. I always reiterate such a scripture, hundreds, thousands, millions of scrolls." So the patriarch, Prajnatara, is asked, "Why don't you read scriptures?" I think we can assume that he does read scriptures, but maybe the question is, why is that not your highest priority, to read scriptures? Why is Zazen your primary focus? Why is Zazen the thing you have great faith in? And then he says, this poor wayfarer, which often in these stories, a poor wayfarer is both a humble way to describe oneself, but also I think of it as a way to say, with very little ego, poor of self-identification. This poor wayfarer, almost transparent wayfarer, doesn't dwell in the realms of body and mind when breathing in. So when breathing in, it's just breathing in. There's no dwelling on anything. It's just breathing in. Nothing else at all. This just breathing in is like the whole universe, just breathing in. Doesn't get involved in myriad circumstances when breathing out. Just breathing out. Not getting involved in all the thoughts that just inevitably arise in the mind, not getting involved in them, just breathing out. And then he goes on to say, I always reiterate such a scripture, hundreds, thousands, millions of scrolls. And when I think of this, there's the breathing in and breathing out in Zazen. And then when we're going about daily life, our eyes see things, our ears hear things. Myriad things, hundreds, thousands, millions of scrolls. And that is the great sutra of being attentive and present to whatever's arising. I kind of like to think that if I get the chance to know that I'm going to die, to be able to be there at my deathbed and have a sense of, I did pay attention, I did notice. I noticed the trees, I noticed the birds, I noticed the clouds, I noticed people. I think that would be very satisfying, to feel that you did notice, that you did pay attention in this precious life. And another thing that came up in our discussion this morning is that sometimes the thought might arise that, am I wasting time doing Zazen when there's so many other activities to do? And in that conversation, we were reflecting that when you do Zazen and you pay attention to the breath, it helps us to pay attention fully to what's in front of us in our daily life. And then we're more likely to actually make wise choices, skillful choices that are beneficial and effective, and less likely to be making poor choices that are ineffective, that then we have to go back and do something again later and do it differently and fix or redo in some particular way. So even though efficiency maybe isn't the most important value, there might turn out to be a great efficiency in giving plenty of time to Zazen, so that then when we navigate our life, we do it more effectively. So even on that level, it maybe is time very worthwhile spent to just sit and do nothing and just follow the breath. I feel this to be so. I feel that I'm far less hectic, but actually get a lot more done in my life now than maybe 20 years ago. So great faith in Buddha nature, great faith in Zazen and the simplicity of paying attention to our breathing, and great faith in the fertility of the present moment. This is where it's happening. It's not happening any other time. This is where it's happening, and we can receive it. Like the noise of the construction doesn't have to be a problem. It's just the noise of construction, and right now it's kind of quiet, and it's really nice to not have the noise of construction. But it wasn't horrible to have all of that noise either. It just was what it was. It wasn't horrible. And even when things are horrible, they're also kind of not horrible at the same time, even when they are horrible. When we can just fully receive the fact of the matter and really have great faith in the power of just the present moment being where everything's at, then when horrible things happen in the present moment, we can receive them and work with them and move with them, and not have this resistance, which is where so much suffering comes from, is from resisting. So the next, the three pillars is great doubt. So I'll read what Tangan Roshi says about great doubt. Here is where great doubt, the second essential point, comes in. Of course, your faith in Buddha nature is not in doubt. In fact, your faith in Buddha nature is so certain that you cannot help but ask, if I am really a Buddha, then why am I not realizing this? Why do I feel so separate? Why can't I see? This great mass of doubt grabs everything out from under you, everything that is not essential. What is essential? That you awaken to your inherent Buddha nature. You have taken this question, this problem upon yourself. It is your driving question. In Japan, we have this thick slug that is said to have special medicinal qualities. When I was a child and suffering from lung disease, I was told to eat one of these slugs. I remember well swallowing one of them. I could feel the slug thickening in my throat as it was sliding down. I couldn't get it down, I couldn't swallow it, nor could I spit it up. I stopped breathing and just screamed. You can't explain it, it was too immediate. This immediacy is right here and now, and there is nothing outside it. This is how great doubt seizes you. Another example we could use is that of a baby whose mother has left the room and will not come back for some time. A baby can't be at peace, only asking with all of its being, where is mother? Where is she? A baby looks around, seeking. They can't help it. They forget everything else and just cry and cry for their mother. Whether they're awake or asleep, they cry wholly, completely for their mother, just absolute crying, nothing outside of it. Nothing can stop the baby from crying for its mother. Just practice like this baby who is crying for their mother. This kind of practice is the most earnest, most honest, most direct way to pursue what you want with all of your heart. How relentlessly can you pursue this problem? How great is your doubt? Pursuing it off again and off again is not enough. You must be single-minded. You must not be thrown off track. You must not waste even a single breath. Sometimes I think we feel this great doubt when we're in sesshin and we're gripped by this, you could say, quest for awakening, or a great question, what is this? What is this life? Why am I here? Who am I? What is the point? Or a question similar to what's mentioned just there by Tangen Roshi. If we're all Buddhas, why do we seem to have so much trouble realizing it? If we're essentially pure and good, why do we do such terrible things? A lot of people have that question. Why do people do terrible things to each other and to themselves? If the teaching is that we're all essentially pure and good. Why does that happen? And it's not a corrosive doubt. It's this deep doubt where we're not looking for a specific singular answer. We're just being very open. One of my questions was, how can I know if my practice is true practice? How can I know if I'm on the right track? Because I'm subjective. I'm always inside my own head. How can I know? That was one of my questions. I think before we've had a strong kind of kensho or awakening experience, it's really good to cultivate this strong kind of curiosity, and with a strong drive to I want to understand, and to have it really eat at you and become kind of all-encompassing, like the way Tangen Roshi described having a slug stuck halfway down his throat. You wouldn't be distracted and you wouldn't be half-hearted in that moment. You'd be 100% giving all your attention to sorting out this slug in your throat. So at a certain point in practice, often for people, it really becomes a very strong, intense focus. What is this? Why do I suffer? Why am I restless? A real genuine questioning. It's not corrosive, as I said. It's not an undermining of anything. It's like a creative doubt. Lots of potential. And it's often quite unpleasant, this period of great doubt early in practice. It can be quite painful and all-consuming, but it's really worthwhile sticking with and not distracting ourselves, like not doing it part-time. Not doing it part-time, but doing it full-time, just in our daily life. Keeping this kind of question, what is this? What is this? And then maybe a little later in practice, it doesn't quite have that same intense galvanizing quality about it, but just keeping this really open, receptive curiosity about everything. Never feeling like we've got it. I've got it sorted now. I can become a little mentally lazy now. I can not bother now. Not that kind of thing. Keeping a really open curiosity all the time about everything. Because the teachings just keep on resonating year after year after year. They can just deepen and deepen if we keep curious and open and not have our minds closed down and become narrow and blinkered. We keep our minds open like that. The teachings just keep on resonating more and more and more. I have little kind of moments of like, oh my gosh, now that teaching, I feel like I'm understanding it more now. It happens frequently to me. I'll remember a certain phrase or a certain teaching. Do you want to keep this open-hearted, open mind? This is the great doubt. That's what great doubt is. Maybe I'll leave great zeal till next week, because it's great to talk about energy and enthusiasm and joy, which is what great zeal or great determination is, and also discipline and courage. So we can do that next week. Okay, I'll turn the recording off.